All right, I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, I love my Floyd Rose and everything, but this just might be the best tremolo I've ever tried. Today I'm going to show you the VT1 Ultra Trem from VegaTrem, the 2-point, and how to install it. Welcome back, I'm Tony, and I've owned a lot of guitars with tremolos on them over the years, and really up until now, the only ones that I actually use on a regular basis were my Floyd Roses, because once you get those things dialed in and locked in, they stay tuned and it's great. I love them, but you know what? They can be a little bit fussy, and if you want to change tunings or anything like that, you got to completely unlock the nut and all that kind of stuff. And really, if you've got something like an old Strat or something that you just wanted to update the tremolo on, it's a lot of work if you want to put a Floyd Rose on there, okay? You got some routing and everything else to do. So over the last year, I've been really looking at this VegaTrem system and thinking, man, this thing looks amazing. The reviews have been fantastic. I just hadn't been able to put my hands on one until I went to NAMM, and I picked up the Lerxst guitar and a couple of their other guitars that they had on display in the VegaTrem booth, and was like, dude, I am thoroughly impressed. This thing is just amazing. I mean, the range of motion, and by the way, this was a decked bridge that was on here, tremolo, but now up and down, no problem. And it's just, oh, it's buttery smooth. I absolutely love it. So for any guitar that has a Strat style tremolo on it, even if it's the 6 screws one, then you'd use the 4 screw connection for a VegaTrem. Or if you've got a 2-post, it's perfect. It's drop in and adds the extra functionality, so it's a win-win. Now, since I was at NAMM, I did pick up a flyer that had a little QR code that took me to a special page on their website to give you 20% off. So I did get a little bit of a break. They cost around $250 to $300 for these, depending on where you get them. And I bought both of mine directly from them in Spain, and they both came in, even with shipping, at about 500 bucks. I think the shipping was only $28 and it came from FedEx, so there you go. Now, of course, I already filmed and edited the up-close portion of this video, so I already know it's pretty long, so let's try to keep it as short as possible and get right into it. Now, I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that cavity there. It's very well made, really, really clean. And this, I'm not sure if that must be brass. All right, so I got 2 of them. I got a 2-point and I got the standard, which is the 6 screw, so 4-point. I'm probably gonna put that on my Made in Mexico Strat. I just haven't decided yet. So yeah, I did open the boxes. And inside we've got a VegaTrem sticker, little card in here congratulating you on acquiring the VT Tremolo. We've got some rudimentary instructions, and they do have some on their website as well, but I did go through and watch some videos on YouTube, of course, so I could get a little bit better idea. So they do give you extra springs in here. They've got high tension and low tension, and I think medium tension as well. I'm going to be using low tension because I'm going to be using 9 to 42 strings. Clear tone electric treated strings, nickel plated. These are super light 9 to 42. Take that out of there. And you've got an American adapter, 2 points. So this is going to have your Allen wrenches and the actual bolts that you're going to use. They're an Asian adapter. So if you've got an American made guitar, these should fit in there. And this is obviously made in China, so it should work with the Asian adapters. As far as springs go, you've got high tension springs, medium tension springs, low tension springs, which is probably what I'm going to use, and extra low tension. We've got the trem bar in here. And this one I got, what do they call this finish? Yeah, this is the VT1 2-points satin. When I played a guitar at NAMM that had one of these on there, it was the Lerxst, Alex Lifeson red guitar, and it had this on there, and I thought, man, that would just look really great on this guitar, so that's what we got. It says on there, keep lubricated. Now, I know that they have a grease or something that they use. I thought they used to send that inside the package. They didn't send that inside this package, so I'm gonna see if I can purchase some from the website. This is the fulcrum, so this is the piece that the bridge is actually going to slide into, and there is a little bit of the grease inside those slots right there. Those grooves are going to be where the actual bridge locks into, and it's also where it's going to pivot from. That's why it's called a fulcrum. And then the bridge itself. Man, what a solid piece of machinery this thing is. I like it. I like it a lot. Everything on this thing feels solid. I guess that's the exact model number of it, VegaTrem. Now you see these little screws right here. These are actually set screws, so when you put your spring in there, and I'm going to put the springs on the outside, you can actually move them to different locations depending on where you like your springs to be. They recommend 2 springs, and I had seen, since this is where your strings load, and also this is the back side of it, so you might be able to do adjustments to it later on. I'd seen people move those from that side to that side, so I may try that out. And that is everything that is inside the box. Let's go ahead and open this up. And there are the low tension springs. That's what we're going to be using. So the first thing I did is loosen up these 2 screws for the claw just a little bit, give myself some room to play. I've already done that, but I'm just going to give it a couple quick little twists. Just try to make it even. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and pull these springs. Careful not to tear out your ground wire. As you see, that fell right through. So we'll just flip this over. And we're pulling that out. All right, well, it's being a little bit fussy, and we got to take these posts out anyway, so we're going to go ahead and remove that. And there we go. That's the old bridge. Now, one of the reasons why these things are so great is that it is completely solid. These saddles do not move. They lock down right there. Of course, you have adjustment for height, for string height there. And then if you look, there's little tracks that each one of these rides on. So that's kind of nice. It just feels so solid. Look at that thing, man. If a piece or a part of a guitar could be beautiful, kind of think this is. All right, well, this is sort of the moment of truth. These are the adapters that you saw earlier in the little packages. So you'll see that they have a slotted top on them. That is so that you can get in there with a screwdriver if you need to. And these are the Asian adapters. So let's see if it fits. All right. Bueno. Yay! Because the bushings are the little pieces that are actually stuck into the guitar that these screw into. And speaking with the team over at VegaTrem about this particular guitar, again, I know this is only a $160 guitar, but it is such a good little guitar. I wanted to do it justice. They said even if they don't fit, we can get you new bushings or something. So they fit. That's great. So we're just going to screw those all the way down. And then I'll tighten them with a screwdriver just to make sure they're in there nice and good. Okay, then we got the little 2 points bag. And inside of there, you've got your 2-point screws. And those are going to be screwing into those anchors that we just put in there, the adapters. And you got 2 different Allen wrenches here. And then this piece just goes on like that. And we will put these 2 bolts in here. And I will not tighten that all the way down just yet, okay? Sure, you could use a drill. I personally like to do everything by hand if I can. Just getting it just, thumb tight. There we go. Okay, so you remember that I showed you that there's those 2 little cuts that are in the fulcrum there? Those little tabs right here, let's see if we can get that to focus, right there and right there are what slide into that. And you can see there's a little bit of that grease on them because I pulled it out of there. I'm not going to wipe that off though, definitely not. So this will just go in like this. And then those will slide into those grooves right there, and that's where it's going to move. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out these little set screws. I'm going to move them to the other side, put the springs in there, and tighten those up to lock them in, which is nice because it actually locks your springs in place, so that will actually help with tuning stability as well. Just as a side note, those are at quite an angle, so if you set this down flat like that, then you can get them in there a lot easier. So I flipped them over to the other side, and then these will just go inside of here and there. Now, you can put them anywhere you want in here, whatever your preference is. They recommend 2 springs, and they recommend to put them on the outsides like that, so that is what I'm going to do. Let me tighten those up. Yeah, it's just a little bit easier to tighten those when it's on the other side. If it's right underneath it, it's kind of difficult to tighten it, so they're in position, and that is just going to slide inside like that. There we go. Now we'll flip this over, holding that steady. A little thing underneath there to push that up. All right, got your claw pulled back here. And then we'll just get these springs on the claw. There we go. Yeah, so you can see that the screws are on the back side of it now. A lot easier to manipulate if you have to do that later. I got that idea, I think his name is Chris Thompson, when I watched his video on the install on a 2-point like this. Again, I'm using these clear tone strings, 9 to 42 super light. One of the things they say is, welcome to 36% louder. Yeah, thanks, I'll take that. Spend more time playing, less time changing strings. These strings are supposed to last up to 5 times the lifespan of untreated strings, 36% more volume, and 48% more sustain. What's nice is that they're color-coded, so it's real easy to understand what you're looking at here. So let's go ahead and do that. So you can see that the strings are going to feed right through the back right there, okay? You would think they go through there, but they do not. They go right through the back. So I'm going to go ahead and put all the strings in there. All right, so I have all the strings in there. And we're going to flip her over. You can see this is sitting pretty much where it's going to need to be. First thing we're going to do is take this E string and we're going to lock it in up top. Now before I lock this string in though, I do want to make sure that the knife edge is inside that little channel that's there, okay? This one might not be totally in there, but we'll get to that in just a minute with the other string. Just as a side note, one thing that's great about these tuners, these locking tuners from D'Addario, is that once you tighten them up, of course, they're locking, so I was able to lock that in. It'll get to a certain point and just clip that right off, which is nice. All right, so I have that one tuned approximately to E. And then what we're going to do is we'll take this other E string and push these off to the side over here. And then we'll get this one locked in at the top as well. You know, just looking at the machining on these things, it is just so nice and smooth. The little saddles are super, super clean. Yeah. See that the tremolo arm actually has a couple of O-rings on it, so that helps it to kind of sit down in there. Got a cuff on here and it'll tighten down. I'm going to go ahead and put this on here now. I mean, it's tight just getting it on there. And then let's just make sure we're actually... Yep, looks like we're in the grooves there. And if you weren't, you could use this to actually kind of jostle it back and forth and get it into position, but that looks like it's in there just right, so I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of these strings installed and get them into position. All right, all the strings are on, and got some great flex both ways. That's great. Now it's just time to set the springs and get this thing leveled out. Okay, to do that, I've loosened up the strings. We're gonna flip it over. We'll tighten up the springs just a little bit and then we will tighten up the strings. Now I also measured the fretboard radius and it's 14, so I'm gonna put that on here and we're gonna see if we can get these to match that radius. And you'll achieve that by using these screws right here to raise and lower these. Then to do intonation, you're gonna unlock it by undoing that. You can move your saddle forward and back and then lock it back down. Now this is a floating bridge, so like any floating bridge, there's going to be a little bit of back and forth trying to get that balance, right? So, and that's going to be between the springs by tightening or loosening the claw, and of course your strings by tightening or loosening those. So right now it's tuned. Let's take a look here. And that is not quite where we want it to be. We want the backside, basically we want that plate that's right there, that all the saddles are on. We want that to be straight with this right here with the fulcrum. Okay, so I'm just going to work on that a little bit. At this point, it looks like I need to loosen the springs by loosening the claw. So we'll just do a couple of turns. 1, 2, 1, 2. By loosening the pressure on the springs, that's going to allow the bridge itself to turn a little bit. It just needs a little bit more, so I'm just going to go back and forth and get that until we get it right. All right, and that's just about right there. It's hard to tell from the angle, and it looks angled because of the saddles, but I've got that lined up now so that it is straight to the fulcrum right there, so you can see that that plate right there is straight. So there we go. Man, it went in super easily, and that was just a quick demo of how versatile this thing is and how well it stays in tune. It stays in tune great. I don't have any locking nut on there. You don't need that or anything like that. I did put some Big Bend's, B-E-N-D-S, nut sauce on the nut slots to help them be lubed up real well, and I don't know if that's really helping to keep the tuning in, but it's definitely staying in tune, and I'm digging that. It's pretty spongy. I mean, you barely touch it and it's moving, so I might tighten that tension up by maybe adding one of those medium tension, or just adding one of the super light tension springs in there or something like that. But they do recommend 2 springs and the springs on the outside, so maybe I'll just get used to it. Each guitar is different, and I'm really loving how this one's doing so far, so there we go. One thing that surprised me is the intonation was almost exactly perfect right out of the box. I didn't even have to do any adjustments to it. I have adjusted it, the 2 strings that were just slightly off, and now they're perfect. I also think one of the things that helps this to stay in tune so well is the smoothness of the saddles. You can see where the string rolls over the saddle there. I mean, it literally rolls over. It is nice and smooth, so there's no binding or sharp edges or anything like that. And previously on this guitar, I didn't even use the tremolo. In fact, I just got rid of the tremolo bar altogether, so I wasn't tempted to even use it because it didn't stay in tune. It was really crappy, and what do I expect for a guitar that was only $160? That's right. This Jackson guitar was 160 bucks, and I put a $250 to $300 tremolo on it. I don't care. I'm gonna do a video about this guitar a little bit later because I've done a couple more things to make it even better. We'll do that, and I'll also do another video where we actually go into more of a demo of this tremolo. I mean, it's fantastic, and I'm kind of relearning how I use tremolos because of the way this one works. It's just like I said, each guitar is different, has their own personality, and I want to use this one to its full potential. So yeah, stay tuned. I'll do much more of a demo with it, and maybe we'll install the other one on that guitar right there. I don't know. Maybe I'll decide I wanted to put it on something else. But that is a made in Mexico Strat. I'm the original owner, and it's probably about 10, 15 years old. I'm almost done redoing my studio, so I'm pretty excited about that and ready to get a whole lot more content up here for you. So if you've been like, man, you've been a little bit sparse on the content lately, I have. But yeah, coming up here in March, we're going to go into high gear. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Listen, I want to thank you so much for your support here on the channel. Likes, comments, shares, subscriptions are always very important to my channel, so if you like what you see, hit the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, there is a red subscribe button down there and a notification bell. If you click both of those, you'll get notifications when I upload new videos. Either way, your support here on the channel means the world to me, and I really, really appreciate you. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll catch you next time on the Vapor Trail channel.